Hello, my name is Shawn Buckley with the Natural Health Product Protection Association, and we wrote a discussion paper on how Canada is in the middle of a exercise in manufacturing consent to manipulate Canadians into eating cloned meat, first with labeling, then without labeling. And we're doing a series of videos to explain the different points in that discussion paper, and we explain how manufacturing consent works, how you know absolutely 100% sure we're in the midst of a manufacturing consent episodes. In later videos, we're going to share with you why this is happening, what the purpose is. Because the goal is first of all, to get Canadians eating cloned meat that is strictly labeled. And then once years have gone by and we're comfortable and they will not have had a post-marketing safety plan to basically look for health problems. So they say, well, there's been no problems. It's clearly safe. We were right. It's equivalent in all ways. Canadians are already eating cloned meat, so we will drop the labeling. And, at that point, most people will actually be okay with it. Whether you are or aren't, at that point, as we explain in a video, it's now mandatory. Because even with your best efforts, unless you're only going to eat at home or become a vegetarian, and I mean, eat at home, with meat purchased from a farmer, you're going to end up eating cloned meat. It will be as if it's mandatory. And we've discussed how no ethics board and, worth its salt would even approve human safety studies right now. There being no prior human safety studies, really no animal safety studies. This video, I just want to basically point out, Health Canada is relying on an opinion document they created. And when you read this opinion document, you won't see them being critical in any way. You won't you won't see them really doing their job. I read this opinion paper. They had the conclusion beforehand, a predetermined conclusion that needed to be supported with a document, that predetermined conclusion being that cloned meat is safe for Canadians to eat. And then they basically have created an argument as best they can. And, their argument is basically, well, look at, it appears that meat from those few, they don't, these are my words, not theirs, those few cloned animals that actually can make it to maturity where we could actually eat them, because most don't make it that far because of all the health risks or dangers that they face. Problems, I guess I should use that word. But those that do, I mean, if we test the meat, for example, for, a handful of minerals or vitamins, the selenium levels might be the same. So, it's equivalent. It must be perfectly fine. No, actually, that really isn't a way to test safety at all. And we've talked about, well, the known health risks in cloned meat. I mean, the process itself lends itself to genetic damage, to genetic defects, and you can't predict where those genetic defects are going to be. You see through what we already know that cloned animals are prone to have a lot of organ damage. So the genetic defects affect their organs, but you can't really predict. Well, how do you predict then what the danger from a process that is prone to creating genetic defects are going to be with humans that consume it? I mean, we know just using genetically modified corn that it's genetically modified to produce an insecticide called Bt toxin. Well, we've learned that when humans eat Bt corn, that the bacteria in our digestive tract can assume that genetic programming in the corn and start making Bt toxin in our digestive tract, which is highly dangerous and problematic. So we see a crossover to the bacteria in our guts. with genetically modified corn? What's the danger of us eating meat with unpredictable genetic defects? That's completely ignored. And Health Canada says we're ignoring that in our discussion paper. Well, that's the main known risk. Another big risk is that cloned animals are more sickly. So those that actually will live to be adults, they tend to need more hormones, they tend to need more antibiotics, they tend to need more veterinary attention, which will include higher chemical drug use. Now, you could argue that it's already a problem that we have too many hormones, too many antibiotics, too many drugs in our naturally bred farm animals. Don't you think you would study the risk? I mean, are the levels just more unreasonable in cloned animals? Why would you allow them into the food supply? There's no discussion about that at all. And they actually even only base their entire paper, which, when you read it, you're going to be horrified. It's really a failed justification on safety on one type of cloning, but there are other types of cloning. So I just want you to understand, as we're going through this manufactured consent episode, that when you read Health Canada's opinion paper saying, no, this is perfectly safe. Move along, citizen. There's nothing to see over here. You go over there. Yeah, over there. Nothing to see here. That they're basically ignoring. They're telling you it's safe when they're not even discussing the known dangers, let alone, discussing how we could mitigate the known dangers, which would, at least help us understand that this isn't a complete fraud, that there really isn't a manufactured consent episode. If they were trying to address safety concerns, you don't ignore the known dangers, you face them, and then you propose ways that we could mitigate them so that maybe we could be comfortable and feel that in some way the known dangers are being addressed. But you need to know, in this manufactured consent episode, Health Canada is basically, and the mainstream media, are completely ignoring the well-known dangers with cloned animals. Stay tuned. We have other videos, including why this is happening, because it makes no economic sense. It's offensive from an animal welfare perspective. A lot of effort is being, used by the mainstream media to manipulate us into accepting the eating of cloned meat with strict labeling. It's very clear that that's what's going on. What's the reason? You need to know. Stay tuned.